AITA for cutting off contact with my mom after she completely ignored my success as a musician working with metal legends, while constantly praising my half-sister and refusing to attend my father's funeral even though I supported her when her awful father died. I never thought I'd find myself typing this out to strangers on the internet, but I'm at a breaking point and need some unbiased perspective. Yesterday, I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. I told my mom I'm cutting contact with her for the foreseeable future. I didn't give her any explanation, and now I'm sitting here wondering if I've made a terrible mistake or if I'm finally standing up for myself after years of being overlooked. First, I need to make something absolutely clear. I love my mother deeply. This isn't about hatred or wanting to hurt her. It's about self-preservation and finally acknowledging a pattern of behavior that's been eating away at me for years. The thing is, whenever I try to bring up these issues with her, she immediately becomes dismissive, changing the subject or making me feel like I'm overreacting. After years of this, I just couldn't take it anymore. Let me give you some context. My father passed away last August. He wasn't a saint by any stretch of the imagination. Years of alcohol addiction had turned him into someone who could be completely unbearable at times. There were moments when I couldn't even stand to be in the same room with him because of his behavior when he was deep in the bottle. But beneath all of that, he genuinely cared about his children. All three of us, me, my brother, and my sister, have different mothers, but he always made an effort to be present in our lives despite his demons. When my dad was on his deathbed, something happened that I still can't wrap my head around. My brother's mother and my sister's mother both showed up at the hospital. They sat by his bedside, held his hand, and comforted him in his final moments. These women, who had every reason to hate him for whatever happened in their relationships, still respected him enough as the father of their children to be there when he needed someone most. Later, at his memorial service, my brother's mother even attended, shedding tears for a man who was no longer her partner but would always be her son's father. My mother? She did neither of these things. She didn't visit him in the hospital. She didn't attend his memorial. Nothing. Not even a text message to acknowledge his passing or to check if I was okay after losing my father. Her complete absence during one of the most painful periods of my life left a wound that I'm still struggling to heal from. What makes this even more hurtful is that I've never done the same to her. My mother's father was, to put it bluntly, a miserable excuse for a human being. He was selfish, miserly, and treated everyone around him like they existed solely for his benefit. I had absolutely no relationship with the man, and what little interaction I did have with him left me with nothing but contempt. But when he died, I was there for my mom. I showed up, I held her hand, I listened to her stories, and I supported her through her grief, not because I cared about him, but because I cared about her. This double standard has become something of a theme in our relationship, especially when it comes to my half-sister. My mom remarried years ago to my stepfather, and they have a daughter together who's about 12 years younger than me. I want to be crystal clear about something. I have no negative feelings toward my little sister whatsoever. She's a sweet kid who deserves every bit of love and attention she receives. My issue isn't with her. It's with the stark contrast in how my mother treats her achievements compared to mine. If you were to look at my mother's Facebook page, you'd think she only had one child. It's plastered with photos of my sister at her dance recitals, posts celebrating her honor roll achievements, and constant public declarations of how proud she is of her amazing daughter. Again, I don't begrudge my sister this attention. She deserves recognition for her accomplishments. What cuts deep is that my mother seems incapable of extending the same courtesy to me. For context, I'm a musician. I've been grinding away at this career for over a decade, playing in dive bars, sleeping in vans, eating gas station food on tour, and gradually working my way up in the industry. Last year, I reached what I consider to be a significant milestone in my career. I had the opportunity to work with two musicians who previously played in one of the biggest metal bands of all time. These aren't just random session players. They're legends in the metal community who have played on albums that have sold millions of copies worldwide. One of them even performed with me on stage last year. Do you have any idea what that feels like? To have someone you've idolized since you were a teenager playing your music, standing on stage next to you? It was the culmination of years of hard work, networking, and honing my craft. It was validation that I wasn't just chasing some childish pipe dream. I was making legitimate progress in an incredibly competitive industry. My mother's response to this achievement? Complete silence. No congratulatory text. No share of the event flyer. No photo of me on stage with someone I've looked up to for years. Nothing. Meanwhile, the same week, she made 3 separate posts about my sister getting an A on her science project. Again, I'm happy for my sister's success, but the disparity is so glaring it's impossible to ignore. This isn't an isolated incident, either. I regularly have shows, release new music, and participate in events that are significant milestones in my career. I always make sure to send my mom the information, dates, venues, links to the music, everything. I'm not asking her to attend every show or become my biggest fan. I'm just looking for some acknowledgement, some indication that she sees my passion and recognizes my achievements the same way she does for my sister. I've tried bringing this up to her multiple times. I've approached the conversation from every angle I can think of, gently, directly, emotionally, rationally. Every time, she either dismisses my feelings entirely, "You're too sensitive," or deflects with excuses, "I'm just not into that kind of music," or "I'm too busy to keep up with everything you do." The message I keep receiving is that my accomplishments aren't worth the same attention or pride as my sister's. Some of you might be thinking, maybe she just doesn't understand the significance of what you're doing. And you know what? That would be a fair point if I hadn't repeatedly explained it to her. I've tried to help her understand that in my world, playing with these musicians is equivalent to a law student getting to argue a case alongside Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or a young basketball player getting personal coaching from Michael Jordan. These are career-defining moments, and they mean everything to me. I've wondered if part of the issue is that she simply doesn't approve of my career choice. Maybe she wanted me to follow a more conventional path, college, office job, steady paycheck. But if that's the case, wouldn't an adult conversation about her concerns be more appropriate than this silent treatment toward my professional life? Last month, I hit a breaking point. I released a new EP that had been in the works for over a year. One of the metal legends I mentioned earlier played on 2 tracks. The other contributed to the mixing process. This project represented hundreds of hours of work, thousands of dollars of investment, and a significant step forward in my career. Several music blogs covered the release, and the feedback from fans was overwhelmingly positive. I sent my mom the link the day it came out with a simple message. New EP is finally out. Would love to hear what you think when you have a chance to listen. 3 days later, she responded with, "That's nice, honey. Did you see the pictures of your sister's volleyball tournament I posted?" Something inside me just snapped. It was such a perfect encapsulation of our relationship. My achievements immediately redirected to focus on my sister. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the next few weeks really reflecting on our relationship and how this consistent dismissal of my life's work was affecting my mental health. I realized I was constantly seeking her approval, sending her every piece of news and achievement with this desperate hope that this time would be different. This time, she would be proud. The cycle of hope and disappointment was exhausting and demoralizing. I found myself downplaying my own accomplishments because if my own mother didn't think they were worth acknowledging, maybe they weren't that significant after all. That's when I made the decision to create some distance. Yesterday, I called her and simply said, "Mom, I need to take some time away from our relationship. I love you, but I need space." She immediately became defensive, asking what she had done wrong, why I was being so dramatic, if someone had been telling me lies about her. I held firm and told her this wasn't a discussion, just a notification of my decision. I didn't go into details because, frankly, I've tried explaining these issues to her dozens of times before without any change. It feels like throwing words into a void. But now I'm sitting here wondering if I've made a terrible mistake. She's still my mother, and despite everything, I do love her deeply. Am I overreacting to what might just be a case of different interests? Is it childish to be jealous of the attention my sister receives? Should I have tried one more time to explain how I feel before taking this drastic step? My phone has been blowing up with messages from family members since our conversation. Some are supportive, understanding that this has been a long time coming. Others are calling me selfish, saying I'm hurting my mother for no good reason and that I should just get over it. My stepfather sent a particularly nasty text accusing me of being jealous of a child and suggesting that maybe my mother would be more supportive if I got a real job. That one stung, especially considering I actually make a decent living from my music between performances, session work, and teaching. What's been most eye-opening about this situation is realizing how differently my mother has portrayed our relationship to others versus how it actually is. From the reactions I'm getting, it seems she's presented herself as this incredibly supportive parent who's constantly cheering me on while I'm being ungrateful. The disconnect between this narrative and reality is jarring. I keep thinking about my father's funeral and how she couldn't be bothered to show up, not even for my sake. I think about all the shows she's missed, all the achievements she's ignored, all the times I've needed maternal support and found the space empty. Then I think about how, despite having every reason not to, I showed up for her when her father died. I supported her during her divorce from my stepfather and his subsequent return. I've been there for every crisis, every celebration, every significant moment in her life. The question that keeps circling in my mind is, shouldn't this be reciprocal? Isn't that what family is supposed to be? People who show up for each other, who celebrate each other's victories and support each other through defeats. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm not asking her to suddenly become a metal fan or to attend every show I play. I'm just asking for the same level of interest and pride she shows toward my sister. Is that really so unreasonable? So here I am, turning to internet strangers for perspective because I honestly don't know if I'm being rational anymore. Is distancing myself from this relationship an overreaction? Should I have tried harder to make her understand before taking this step? Am I the bad guy for feeling hurt by her obvious favoritism? And most importantly, where do I go from here? Part of me wants to reach out, to try one more time to make her understand how her behavior has affected me. Another part of me thinks this distance might be the wake-up call she needs to recognize the pattern. And a small, wounded part wonders if she'll even notice my absence at all, or if she'll just be relieved to have one less child to worry about acknowledging. I keep reminding myself that setting boundaries isn't the same as burning bridges. This distance doesn't have to be permanent. Maybe with some time and perspective, we can rebuild our relationship on healthier terms. Or maybe this is the beginning of accepting that the maternal relationship I've always wanted isn't one she's capable of providing. Either way, I need to prioritize my own mental health right now. The constant cycle of hope and disappointment has become too draining to sustain. I deserve to celebrate my achievements without wondering why they're not enough for my own mother to acknowledge. So, internet strangers, am I the bad person for cutting off contact with my mom without fully explaining why? Should I have tried harder to make her understand? Am I overreacting to what might just be different interests or communication styles? Or is this a necessary step toward a healthier relationship with both her and myself? I genuinely don't know anymore, and any outside perspective would be deeply appreciated.